Good evening. Tonight we are at Kilimanjaro Creations together with Steve Katz. My name is John Sizer of South African Beer. Before we go into what Steve does, just a very quick thing. We are now taking on a couple of the lines from the golfer. His wines, you will be able to get David Frost from our suppliers that we supply to. A list will be available on our website as we go along. And we're branching out of Southern African products or South African products into products from different parts of the world. This is a high-end Ukrainian vodka that will be available as well. The other wines that we have on display are the usual one formation from Burland. We've got Louis 57 with a stunning Syrah. Last week we tasted the Chenin Blanc during a tasting. We still have the 5 reserves Cabernet, and tonight we will be tasting an assortment of whites. Once we feel Steve has stopped playing with the knives and the sharp stuff, we'll stop for a tasting. We do have available the Buffelsfontein brandy. They are bringing a beer out, and the beer will be in August, and as well as a pinotage. Steve will be making available on his products a Buffalo insignia as well as the Buffelsfontein logo, with a view that you can purchase his products with those logos and the buffalo on it as well. We also have in the background here my Scottish cousin. We pretend it's a South African product, but it's not really a South African product. It is made in Scotland, but bottled in South Africa. So it's called my Scottish cousin. So we're still related to in one way or the other. The other products are 5 reserves, our Royal Rhino, which is an incredible coffee liqueur, but made from wine. It has Africa Arabica coffee bean and vanilla in it. 5 reserves have a full range of the pinotage, the Cabernet, the Chenin Blanc. They also do a brandy that is available from us, and a marula cream. Everyone knows the marula. And then we have the Zulu rum for the guys who are serious rum drinkers. And at some point we will allow Steve to, at his own choice, choose what he wishes to taste. But at this point in time, Steve is going to explain to you what he actually does and what he has in front of him tonight.
So Kilimanjaro Creations was a vision born of a young guy who immigrated to America, missing home, and came up with the idea of creating African artifacts, whether it be artistic carvings or home decor design items. And it quickly led into blacksmithing and bladesmithing, which at the time I started was in its beginning phases because of a show on History Channel called Forged in Fire. It exploded from there. The style kind of just got accepted very quickly. It's quite unique in its look, and it started to develop quite rapidly. That it enabled me to grow into a decent-sized entity in this industry that I found myself in. Again, like John, I play on the link to South Africa all the time, especially in every piece that I make. All the woods that I use are pieces that come from the Kruger National Park or the surrounding area of the Kruger National Park. I have local artists back in South Africa that are carving me local work, like the little figurines that I use on top of the spears. And it's a way I get to keep a link back home. What's nice about this one here, John, is that's actually Marula wood.
Okay.
So
I was going to say just put drizzle marula over it, but that's not going to work. Yeah.
So, and the history behind what I'm doing will kind of make someone think what we do as bladesmiths and blacksmiths is something that's very antiquated. It stretches over 400 or 500 years as a craft, even more. And it brings people back to doing things with their hands, which has been lost.
Just for the American or the person with American background that doesn't understand a spear or an impi or...
So the history of this weapon, the ikwa, or in English as we call it, the assegai, was formed around about the late 1700s, around about 1776, when Shaka Zulu took reign of the Zulu people. He was actually an illegitimate son, born of a king, a chief, and had quite a hard life, and became a general in another chief's army, and developed a whole new war tactic in Africa where we had hand-to-hand combat, where before we would have battles over long distances of people screaming insults at each other and throwing spears and stones, and eventually everyone would go home and the war was probably dealt with in more of a diplomatic sense. But Shaka Zulu's vision of his empire was something like the Romans had envisioned Europe, total subjugation of other nations, amalgamating them under his tribal banner and making one of the most numerous tribes that spread through the sub-Saharan African continent. Say that a lot.
You know, you're doing such a good job, I'm going to resign and just carry on.
So the history to that weapon for me, as a kid, when I grew up in South Africa, I used to come home from school, plug in the VHS tape and play Shaka Zulu while it played on TV. And nothing's kind of really changed. I've just made the weapons a lot more drastic and a lot more beautiful, I think, in terms of the artistic nature that goes into it.
But the people buying this, is it mainly for artifacts on the wall?
Mainly the Zulu spears go to safari industries, hunting industries, African decor industries. So we do a various range of that product of the spear itself. We do larger ones that go on front doors, we make door handles out of them. There's various ideas that you can do, we can try and do that. And that's the best part about this craft, is it's nothing but trial and error.
Well, the one thing I just want to mention as a sidebar, we flew all the way to Dallas to go and do a wine tasting in Dallas at the Safari Club, and lo and behold, there he was with all his artifacts selling to the people.
One of your top customers, actually, from African Custom Knives. The Safari Club has been an open market for me because I had zero competition. So I was given the opportunity by my promoters in the US, African Custom Knives, and you can check out their website, africancustomknives.com. They represent 50 makers from South Africa at the moment, and they bring all their products here to the US. And they gave me a pretty much free meal ticket to do one show in Reno, one show in Dallas, and to bring everything I make, which at the time was made in my single-car garage here in Lake Worth, Florida. It was a real eye-opener to me to how to propel a business going forward. Again, the industry itself, in the knife-making industry, is very nichified. The more specific you are in product, the more your name gets made. It's one of those things that's more about your skill level more than the product that you make.
I'm trying to figure out what you're going to do with this. I mean, you can't really cut bottom or anything with
that's
it.
That's actually considered the multi-tool knives.
What do you do?
It's a bush tool, it's a fine use tool, it's a bush crafting tool. And that's the majority of my markets, especially here in the US. Outdoors and bush crafting seem to be a big mindset here in the US.
I'd love to see how you try to cut your bread with it, but anyway, that's just being sarcastic. So it's not for kitchen utensils.
Yes, the kitchen style stuff I stay away from it traditionally because they come from steels that you really can't forge. You've got to really just grind out the shapes and everything.
I've watched those forge programs, and it's a very big thing into balancing the knife and balancing, so you do all of that as well.
Yeah, scales, knowing how much the wood weighs once it's ground into shape.
And custom gripping, or is that not really a thing?
That I try and do with customers, but it's very hard to get accurate measurements of the person's hand. They're sending it to you over online email or something. So generally I base it on what my hand is, and generally a decent size handle, about 4.5 to 5 inches long. So just balance.
Now, the hammers, I assume that's just part of your tools and it's not what you make?
Yeah, no, the hammers actually have been made for me, but it all changes as your advancement goes in the craft. You buy your normal hammer at a hardware store and you see what that does. And then the progression is to get something that smooths your work out. So the first hammer that I had made for me was made by a fellow blacksmith. So he listened to the design and how I forge out the Zulu spears and came up with that style of hammer head for me, with the rounded peen and the flat face. This is called a dog's head hammer, and we use that to hammer in our bevels, so we don't have to spend hours sitting on the grinder creating all the dust.
So the question is, why don't you have these huge muscles?
Because you don't throw a hammer from your arm. You throw a hammer from your...
Okay.
I'd like to say heart, but it's more your pectoral muscle. So, and it's a type of thing where you've got to work smart, not hard. So the hammer really is just the fuel that makes the rest of the engine work. It's the anvil itself that makes it work.
I just had an earlier point forgotten. Whilst he's doing the buffalo for the Buffelsfontein, for Americans, Buffelsfontein, Buffalo Springs, and it's a brandy, no English on the bottle except the now warning label on the back. But I don't know if you ever bother to read this, but your sub logo is "Bedarf yourself your rubber bliksem," spoil yourself your rough, but we'll call it scoundrel for this, okay? And when you drink and you pot with me, you can stuff. Don't drink and walk in the road, you could die. I gather you're going to get knocked over. But with the buffalo, we are twisting Steve's arm to make us a rhino as part of the rhino selection. That is linked to the Rhino Foundation.
Big background too. Before leaving South Africa and making West Palm Beach home, I was part of the Kruger National Park's anti-poaching units for almost 8 years. So I know the product well. I know how it's linked with, say, the Rhino Foundation and various other charities that are on the ground in South Africa. And I've seen the work that gets done with it. I see where the funds go. I see what's bought. I see what soldiers are given. And the more we do, the better it is for the cause.
And part of whatever orders are taken from the final product that Steve develops for the Royal Rhino, that product we will ensure that part of the proceeds definitely find its way back to the Hoedspruit Endangered Species Centre. That's the main beneficiary. Yeah.
So the Royal Rhino is made in Hoedspruit?
No, it's made in the Western Cape by Nature's Own, the same people who make the Marula. The thing with the Royal Rhino is that there's a lady by the name of Lenteruda. She inherited the farms from her father and was passionate about cheetahs. So she started trying to protect cheetahs from extinction. And people started bringing in all kinds of animals, and amongst them were the baby rhinos of the parents that had been poached. And it's now gravitated in bringing rhinos that have had their horns hacked off, and they then nurture them back to strength and rebuild up the horn. It's become a whole industry.
They were the home of hope.
Yeah, and they're trying to sustain that model, so they've now got guest houses on the property, and for people who want to go and live on stay on the guest houses when South Africa opens up for tourism again, you can actually get to go to the working part and interact with the rhinos that they're trying to save, or you can go to the holiday part and just view it from a distance.
And with the stone's throw being in Kruger Park, you're in the best part of the world. So yeah, so what we'll do is show you guys a little bit of stuff of what we do here in the forge, show you the tools that we use, and just show you what we have fun doing.
But no drinking until he's
100%.
finished that process. This is a little unusual. Normally we drink and carry on, but I'm loath to see someone lose their hand or
well, there's high impact machinery around, so we're going to just take it slow and just show a little bit of what we do here. About 5 minutes to get that wall. That's where we planted it. have with that is that a whole buffalo that will be molded out of the same stuff would go over that tank. So that's why we have a lot of work surfaces around, so we can put hot things down and not pick them up anymore. There's usually 2 rules in a forge. Rule number 1, don't make a mistake. Rule number 2, don't make the same mistake twice. And rule number 3, don't touch black steel. You never know what it is. It's hard to what it's called. Whatever steel you see, pick it up, put it in the water first, the pair of tongs, then go.
I can tell you, I don't do technical. This is not me. And in South Africa, I was in a high school and they did, for the first 2 years, you had technical and commercial. So you mix the two. And we were told to make electrical plumbing. And you know, when you touch the rods that burn and I just pick it up and walk off it. I couldn't handle it. I hurt myself every day. Instinctively, you just have to go. So, no, this is not my trade.
Every mistake possible and almost burn down the house.
How many fingerprints have you lost?
There's one there. I've been good the last 3 months, I can say that. I haven't cut myself or burned myself for 3 months. So,
My wife wouldn't allow me. I'm just too clumsy.
bring this out to do what you have to do. I started with a preform and I'm just reshaping the handle down to what I'm going to do with it as a kicking stand. Know we got a hard blade is we tested the car. Any type of file, something that's got a nice abrasive teeth. And you hear the sound that I'm making. It's too hard and pretty good. Soft spot there, but we good. So that's the basic end to forging a knife. So the end is preformed blank shape. This is after a bunch of forging, then a bunch of grinding to create the convexing shape towards the edge. The knife is made up of 3 things: a handle, straight spine, and a straight cutting edge. That's the basic tool. And that tool has been around since it was a sharpened stone, till then it was a piece of bronze, then a piece of steel. And we're still continuing on the same process hundreds and thousands of years later. And that's what keeps me making it.
we're back to the tasting side. You've had an opportunity to see the rest of Steve's operation, and now he can relax and he can have something to drink. To show you just how well organized we are and how well organized a Ford shop is, we relegated to plastic cups. But we're going to do quick spot tastings here. And as we go along, we'll chat about certain things. Steve has been telling us about his illustrious and wonderful life and how he got involved in this industry. So this is a Chardonnay from 5 Climates. It's currently on special at a lot of the stores, right through from St. Augustine, in Fernandina Beach. It's also at certain of the other stores. African Tradition have just launched their new store in Hope Sound. You'll be able to pick these on specials on Friday and Saturday, and also online. The thing with the Chardonnay, it's not wooded like a regular Chard. It's an unwooded Chard, and it should have a bit of a buttery back end. So we find it not as harsh and a lot easier to drink. And we had to take a chance. We opened this a day or two ago, and we wanted to make sure it hadn't.
Relatively smooth for a Chardonnay. They're not wooded, so what are they not casting? Or?
No, it's just when they wood, they add wood chips into it, and they try give it a smoky oak type feel to it. Now, I don't have the propensity to have as much as he does, so and I normally have
dinner before I even got
I haven't had dinner, and that's my problem. Okay, you're going to go ahead with me, and I'm going to use this as a spitball.
Sure.
Okay.
So where is the winery itself?
Okay, this is not a winery, and this is what makes it interesting. Bourlon Cellars is a cooperative, as we used to know in South Africa. So what Bourlon does is they contract 6 different wineries to their company, and they all different parts of the Cape. So you know the terroir, the soil in the Cape. So depending where the grape is grown, they achieve different things. So with Bourlon, they would have like the 5 Climates range. In that they'll do a cab and they'll do a Chenin Blanc, and it'll come from a specific winery that they're concentrating on those grapes. Then they'll go out and they'll do that's also a Bourlon product, which is a higher end Chenin Blanc, and that'll come from a different winery because it'll be a totally different. This is Cinsault grape. So you'll find a steam grape. My apologies. You'll find that this is very, very heavy. They both have a wooded and unwooded, but the taste differential, that's light and easy.
Yeah.
You can see by the way the cork goes.
It's nice for a climate.
Correct. Now, this again is a Bourlon product, talented terroir, Cinsault Rosé. Particularly dry, which is not everyone's cup of tea, but we have found that the American market has gravitated to the talented terroir because it's a very refreshing wine, beautiful salmon color on it, and leaves an incredibly good fresh aftertaste.
I like the way they're doing the crisp caps and bottle.
Australian idea,
Yeah.
believe it or not. And it doesn't affect the quality of the wine, but the wines that you're going to keep for a very long time has to be corked. You're not going to get it in a screw top.
My dad used to collect all different corks from different red wines.
What I do is, every time I do a tasting and I pop a cork, I write the tasting where we've done it. And it's getting so many now that unless I'm going to paste it on a board and make a feature out of it, it's not much. Okay, at this point in time, I want to ask him that fella there first.
Okay.
Because you told me, and I don't think people know what it is.
So that is a jawbone from a black-backed jackal. It's a species very similar to the coyote here in North America, which we have in South Africa. Considered a pest problem animal in the farming communities, so they have eradication laws. But this guy was actually picked up on a farm that I was walking through in January when I was back in South Africa, and still don't know to this day what actually happened to the animal. I just found the bones and decided to take it, clean it, and see if I can make some artwork out of it. So
We cannot say no animal was harmed in it, or deliberately harmed.
no, deliberately harmed.
Deliberately
A
harmed.
lot of the stuff I do use comes from breeding programs and
The leftover carcasses.
yeah, and things like that. A lot of times with the big cat breeding programs, they have to raise their own antelopes to feed these animals, and that's where I'm deriving a lot of my product from.
Okay. In our discussions off camera, what Steve has offered is he can custom make that. So if you need a cork for the to have a buffalo or something to that effect,
African on it, you can definitely make that something.
and he is going to look at making that as a more readily available product that you can buy the Big Five molded out into that style.
It'll be great for the fast reserves, bottles, all of those things.
My apologies for going in and out of camera, but I'm playing mommy
You bartender?
process. I'm bartender, yeah. Well, that's a nice name.
So let me finish that quickly.
We're now going into a little bit of the serious stuff. You're the one who wanted to taste it. We won't do the cream in between because it's at the start. It's going to change your taste profile. We'll leave it to the end. But he wishes to get stuck in the rum, the brandy, and the whiskey. So
Yeah.
you choose.
The more hard text stuff.
You choose what sequence.
I'll go with the Scotch. Let's clean the palate with the Scotch.
12-year-old Scotch, as I said earlier on, it is not South African. It's bottled in South Africa, and we'd like to call it South African. Made in Scotland, part of the Allesverloren selection. An incredibly smooth whiskey. A little on the higher end. They do have a 5-year-old, and they do have an 8-year-old.
Grab the cork for a second.
We're nearing the end of the bottle. So,
PT.
so
So
do
Scotch.
you want me to go get you some water?
Yeah, that's fine.
So
That's good.
you're the real man. Part of the discussion we had again earlier on with Steve is how he actually got into this trade.
So how I landed up in bladesmithing, it's kind of a twofold story. When I was 20 years old, I opted and volunteered for the Israeli Defense Force, where I spent 7 years in there. Being the non-Israeli in my unit, I was always the outcast. So I landed up spending time on base with the local blacksmith that was on our base, and picked up the craft first there from him. And coming back to South Africa, over the few months that I was at home for that period, I wanted to see what African tribes were doing with blacksmithing. So I decided to hop into my little Suzuki Samurai 4x4, and I drove from Johannesburg to Nairobi, Nairobi to Cairo, Cairo to Morocco. I then put the car on a boat in Morocco and sent it back down to Cape Town, and then flew from Morocco to Botswana, where I spent another month, and then bust from Botswana back through to Johannesburg. I kind of call it the biggest education I ever got.
Do I assume you weren't married at the time?
Not at all. I was pretty much 3 months out of my service in the IDF. I hadn't been back in South Africa for 3 years up until that point. So I wanted to just immerse myself in her.
For the Americans out there, the Suzuki Samurai, I'm guessing it's pretty much the J410.
That's the SJ413.
Okay, 413,
Yeah.
because I know the 410 was the little baby.
The little baby with the 11cc, and this one had the 1300.
Seriously, a 1300, all the way up
I
to...
broke down once. I broke down in Zimbabwe. I was coming out of Gweru heading towards Harare, and the steering rod cracked. And I found a guy on the side of the road and fixed it with a piece of string to a nail and a piece of wood, and a piece of string to the same nail and a piece of wood. And that held all the way till I got to Harare, and we had to have the steering rod fixed.
That's the amazing part is when we came to the States a couple of years back, probably 6-7 years back, Suzuki was still on the road. You could still buy a Suzuki, and they've stopped it now completely. And it's a hell of a little car.
I mean, you go to India and Southeast Asia, they know nothing from Land Rover and Ford. It's all about Suzuki or Mahindra. So that was an eye-opener for me, that 9 months that it took me to travel through the African continent. And it spurred me on to take my life a little bit further at that point, where I went into travel and tourism, which then led me to conservation and anti-poaching. But Africa's always been a big thing, not just to myself, but to my entire family. We've always had great vacations in remote areas in Southern Africa. So for me, it's always been a lifestyle choice that I made when I was really young to continue this African identity. And when I landed in America, it's now 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I found I was lacking that identity while being here, and enabling me to make what I make with the pieces that I use, the woods and things from home, kind of soothes the soul, stops the heartache, stops the homesickness a little bit, and gives me a chance to tell my story in a very different medium than most people would think of. I kind of call myself a novelist, but I don't use a pen and paper.
This rate, somebody's going to either hire you for Naked and Afraid or your own talk show, your own live show.
The Naked and Afraid guys, in fact, are all very close friends of mine because we revolve around the same group in this knife industry. And a couple of them have actually had my knife on the show, which was quite honorable.
Just the knife. Where did they carry it?
Don't know where Kayla put it, but she can tell me that in private.
The other thing that, while Steve's having his whiskey, an interesting tale of this little fella here, little Pavlov on top of the...
12 years old, did you say?
12 years.
That's very smooth.
So it's an incredible whiskey. From Griffin Estates, available at a lot of the liquor stores down here in Florida. If you want the product in your area, we are busy with national distribution with a distributor, and we can get the products to you, but you just need to reach out to us at South African Beer. Email me, John at SouthAfricanBeer.com, and we will then get out and find a means to get the alcohol to the closest store. Within reason. We can't go to a place where we're going to sell one bottle, but we are trying to develop a network throughout the country.
So John was talking about the tokolosh, which is the carving we see up on the end of the spear here. So the tokolosh is a mythological creature which was created by the Sangomas, or the witch doctors in the Nguni tribal communities. A unique story. Basically, what happens in southern Africa back in history were Africans slept on the floors of their huts and they would burn fires in the middle of their huts. What would happen is the smoke would then rise up, hit the thatch roofing of the hut, and then sink back down over them over the floor, and they wouldn't wake up because they were dying of suffocation. So the witch doctors needed to have a story that they could tell to the people in their tribes and spread throughout the sub-Saharan part of the continent rapidly. And they came up with the story of the tokolosh. So he's a creature who causes mischief, and he steals your soul while you're sleeping. So that's why you pass away in your sleep. So the story goes, to save yourself from the tokolosh, you must raise your bed on bricks or paint cans, which a lot of the Africans back home, a lot of the local tribes do that.
Even the domestic workers back in South Africa.
And that's exactly where it stems from. But what they really were achieving were lifting the people out of the carbon monoxide layer of the room, pushing them into an oxygen-rich layer of the room, which ended up saving their lives. But what it also tells us is that the history we taught in South Africa throughout our years of study is wrong. We were told that African tribes never communicated with each other. This guy tells us something different, because he's found not just in South Africa, he's found in Botswana, in Namibia. West African tribes utilize the same figurine and the same name, Tokoloshi. In the Maasai and the Kikuyu communities in Tanzania and Kenya, they have the same legend. So there was a definite bush telegram that was going through with this story, per se, through the generations of African tribal communities. So that's quite an interesting thing to think of, that some people so backwards in technological advancement could have a story about that spread so forth. That's the tokolosh.
You talk about that. Back in South Africa, we owned a security company, and we also owned a company that supplied communications, and in fact still do, to security companies. And security guards get cold at night, and as harsh as it sounds, the customer whose site it is that they are protecting wouldn't give them a heater, because the theory is that as you get the heat in the guard room, you'd get tired and fall asleep. So what they would do is they would steal the electric element of the electric stove, plug it in the wall, and if they were caught with that, they would then make a fire. But obviously, with all that smoke, you'd now be unable to breathe. So the one guy specifically thought anthracite's the answer, because there is no big clouds of smoke. Moral, the end of the story is, next morning he woke up dead, because the anthracite, the heat had sucked out in the smoke, had sucked out the air, and he died, trying to keep warm. But it's amazing, still to this day, you have those challenges.
I mean, I actually just heard a story that was told to me by one of the trackers that I used to work with in wasabi sand. Basically what happened was now the cold's come to South Africa and the whole place is being shut down. These guys are going around looking for wood in the veldt and coming back, and they brought this wood that was a toxic invasive species. They ended up burning that in the fire and the whole family went away.
Wow. For, again, the people who don't necessarily understand the South African, not even the accent, a veldt is a field.
Yeah. Or a big area of bush.
Okay,
so
you're the man.
So the next one, let's go with the rum. He's been eyeing me. And it's got the same logo as the rest of my company.
And that's an MP rum. It's a shield that they use in the tribe.
And you can see the guys holding up the little spear and the shield on the side there. I can get with this.
I don't know how far a focus will go. Chloe, if you just holler. Fella's got a little shield and he's got...
So is that bottle Joburg or Durban?
Believe it or not, when I met the fella, he was making this through a bottler or through a distiller in Durban and putting it together in his garage in Durban North. And it was him and his assistant, and they would sit and they would do the label. And just to show you how South African it is, read the thing. Alcohol is?
No, alcohol is addictive.
Addictive.
Yeah, not addicting.
No, but the spelling, it's like really the guy did it out of the back of his garage, and he started that way, and now it's a commercial enterprise.
That's awesome.
You don't want to mix it with this?
I'll take a little bit of mix and cut it.
Well, we're going to do this first. We're going to give you a teeny top first.
So it's
a
spice. It's a spice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful aroma. This bottle, or this rum, won the Best Rum New York 2016. And he's absolutely underrated. You still want your Coke with it? How much rum do you want in there?
Just another splash. That's good.
Okay, I'm going to allow you. Coke's a very personal thing. For the Americans out there, South Africans put Coke in their brandy and their drinks, and people wonder why. It's a South African thing. You top
it's
up
a
your
glass bottle of Coke. Ooh, even better.
It's from our personal stash. That looks like more Coke than rum.
No, that's good. There's one thing that got me when I moved here 8 years ago was the size of the shots that guys have here. The shots are massive. Back home we used to get that little one.
Little glass there.
The last 8 years has been an education like
Well, since we got into this industry, we didn't realize how much alcohol there was coming out of South Africa. We take a population, the official population, somewhere around 54 million people. The unofficial, because we got the same problem with immigrants walking across the border. So the true number is not really known. But if you take the size of the country, we actually have 500 beer brands.
Yeah.
500 for such a small population. I'm not talking craft beer.
No,
I'm talking commercial beers.
Yeah.
You think to yourself, really? Okay, we're going to wait for you to drink.
I say this, I mean, the whole purchase of Anheuser-Busch South African breweries was a huge impact to South Africa.
Well, we got to see the beer for the first time on the table, so now you can get Budweiser in South Africa. But for some weird reason, they only brought the light in to begin with. And the money that we were paying, it was like 1/3 the price of a regular parcel. Probably because they couldn't sell it. Because South Africans are die-hard
for the
brand.
beer brand. Right. And I know good makers, knife makers in South Africa, that if you don't drink the beer they drink, they don't speak to you. So,
And with us, each kind of beer has a different story.
yeah.
Okay, are we going to just try?
Stuff,
No, we're going to end the evening with beer.
Sure.
I asked
I'm
you up
good,
front
don't
how you are, okay.
I'm good.
Okay, again, a taste first so that you
It's
just
all
get
good.
the pure feel of it. You'll notice I'm not drinking.
So this is a brandy.
5 Reserve brandy. Again, alles van Leuven Estates. It's a very smooth brandy.
Doesn't have that caramelly, like rashy. I'm out with the trip.
Well, that's why I'm not going to give you Coke with it. I'm not going to let you have a shot. I want to let you do the Buffelsfontein. That is the most surprising product for us. brought it in for South Africans as a fun. Buffelsfontein's history is they used to, or they still do, make beard oil. So they have this slogan, Die Manne van die Baard, the men of the beard. And they'd make a beard oil, and they felt that these manly men deserved their own brandy, and they made this. It's an incredible brandy.
It's such a nice flavor on the drop.
Okay, now this is a 3-year-old brandy from Buffelsfontein. The difference between
twee buffels met een geel te skip van.
2 buffels met 1 squirt geskietfontein.
Een geel.
2 buffaloes with 1 shot.
One bullet to
One-
shoot.
In other words, the theory is you can kill 2 buffalo with 1 bullet. It's just a nonsensical chat. 3 years old, and the reason what's doing well with Americans is that it is a sweeter style brandy. So it's not sweet, but Americans aren't used to their brandy here is cognac. And when you get into cognac, you're looking for something old or aged. So they're not used to 3 years. But they've actually gravitated to this, and I thought it was quite amazing given.
Because of the buffalo that's on.
Maybe. They can't read a single word, and I think they lie for their friends because their friends can't read a word either.
And it's the buffalo.
Well, actually, it's a fellow with a beard, and he's just been given horns, so he might even be a Viking. Or it could be a buffalo with a beard.
Interesting logo.
There it is.
I love how the stories are that the guys started in their own garages. I mean, that's really inspiring.
They've got the most hilarious videos, and if you go onto South Africa, SouthAfricanBeer.com, you'll pick up the videos, or you go on our face page, and all the people who star in the videos are all people who work for the company. They do not employ actors. And they just, off the back, and one video is they've taken out a mattress, and the guy is now skiing and being dragged on on the back of an LEV as he's skiing on a mattress in the middle of the desert. And you're like, where do you get the idea? And then the other video is they've got an English fella in hospital, nearing the end of his life, and he takes a swig of Buffelsfontein. Suddenly he speaks Afrikaans and he's resuscitated.
I've seen that.
Brilliant.
There was a play on a bunch of stuff that was happening in South Africa a few weeks ago.
Yeah, they're like Nando's.
Yeah.
You know, Nando's take the Mickey out of
They
everything.
set the par for commercials.
You want
Interesting.
you want to cope with that one, or are you going to figure it out first?
Right, for a 3-year-old brandy, it is surprisingly gentle. I don't taste like that surgical alcohol flavor that they usually get from other young alcohol. Very nice.
Just on a
Very
side,
nice.
on a side discussion, a little bit of nonsensical talk. Buffelsfontein sponsored a South African get-together in Texas last year, the Texas Poikie. They paid to fly in 60 cases of brandy so that the people can enjoy the brandy. Totally by them. They sent staff to come and visit. And the one guy got up and they had Adam Tuss, the singer there, and the guy from Buffelsfontein got up and sang, did a marvelous job. I don't want to criticize Adam Tuss because someone out there is going to have a lot to say about it. But this guy was like that old rank bad guy, big fella, big belly, big beard, and it was a solid Afrikaans. And towards the end of the evening, everyone got in a big circle and they all did this Della Rey, sal die boere my kom vry. And people were crying, longing for
That's
her
what
name.
happens. That's what happens at Safari Club. So Safari Club International is a show that happens either in Las Vegas or Reno, or in Dallas, the Dallas Safari.
There's a Dallas chapter.
So Safari Club International in Las Vegas, we landed up taking out the whole one bar at the Bellagio Hotel. All the South Africans that were there for the
Oh yeah, there's a heck of a lot of them.
and landed up singing Della Rey at 2 a.m. in the morning that they had to get the Las Vegas PD to come and tell us to be quiet.
Well, when we were at that, it was my first experience to one of these shows, and you go through the hall and you just hear Afrikaans being spoken everywhere, and it's like, normally we switch to Afrikaans if you want to gossip about another person, but yeah, it was just the language of choice. They outnumbered everyone at 3 to 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So,
Marula, you know the story of Marula,
I
and
know Marula.
you can have the honor of discussing the story while
Marula is a deciduous fruit tree that actually grows in the South African bush. It's an endemic species. One of the 5 combritum tree species that we have on the continent, the subcontinent. Its fruit is relatively indicative of African fruit. It's going to have very large flesh, very little fruit, and a very large seed. But the fruit is like, it's made up of fine hairs that are attached to the seed. So the way they extract the juice from that, which is quite immense for one fruit, I think they get something like 22 ounces of juice from one fruit. So the story of Amarula actually goes from an old bush tale that guides used to tell tourists. We would see in certain times of the year that the fruit of the tree would get overripe, fall off on the ground, and you would see all the baboons come and eat it, you'd see all the elephants come and eat it, and they would then, after it had been fermenting for some period of time in the sun, they would eat this and they would look like they were drunk. Ultimately, but I understand, maybe the baboons probably did get drunk, but the elephants would have to eat so many of those fruits to actually get them intoxicated. But what the symptom you were seeing of them walking away and being all giddy is an elation. Their endorphins firing in their brain was sending them signals into the brain that I have just consumed sugar. And that's why elephants would get all jittery around these trees at the time that the fruit was falling over.
The monkeys were falling over on their back, and I don't think that's sugar. I don't believe that's a sugar high.
Always fall over there. But the truth is about this tree, it's such a crucial part to an ecosystem. The way we look at ecosystems on the ground, especially in South Africa in our ecosystems, is those trees bring different species. Those species that come to eat that tree, A, monkeys, B, birds, 3 would be the giraffe. Those are all indicator species. They show that there's cross coercions between biomes, which shows that your bushveld or your biome is very healthy. So that was one way we used to always see it. We saw in a season that there were lots of marula trees coming up over a period. We would say we were going to be in for a good 5 years of future day viewing in that area because of the species that tree would bring in.
Quite frankly, I still prefer the video on National Geographic where everyone looks horribly inebriated, goes down. It was far better at a tasting than your complicated.
Beautiful People was the first guy to show that whole show.
And those elephants did look like they were behaving badly, but yours is for the record?
Yeah, well, mine's just more of the guiding background.
Ours is for the tasting.
But so we're going to go with the cream. So
Okay. The difference between this and Amarula. Amarula will have a spirit in it, a brandy in it. This will have wine. This is a wine-based product. The reason that we've run with the wine, it enables us to get it into stores that ordinarily could not sell a product. And the upside about this specific cream is that we have people like Colombian coffee shops and they put it in their coffee instead of milk. And that is surprisingly one of our biggest sellers. And they even put it in their desserts.
that's got memories, man. That's like memories.
We've got a South African store doing a very high-end tasting tonight of wine, and they are featuring the Rhino, which is a similar product to that, and they're using it as part of their dessert menu. So if you put that and you use it as a cream, Chloe makes a Malva pudding out of it, pudding or dessert.
Notice I did the same thing. If they had marula over the Malva.
Well, we use our product. And there's a South African up north in who makes fudge. So she puts that in the fudge, and it burns out the alcohol by and large, so it's still okay for kids, but it is just give you that flavor of that Amarula or the Rhino.
I bring in, every time I go back, I bring 3 jars, the big jars of marula jam, and that is my daily breakfast.
You don't fall over with your jam, do you?
No, not at all. And I love it when it gets crystallized. That's when it's even better.
You like the real grizzly bear fella, you know that, the South African version. A little
Well,
small and light.
I spent enough time with a bunch of guys that were old South African Defence Force guys, Rhodesian military guys. So I spent many years around the fiery Kruger National Park, drinking pretty much brandy. Everyone else.
Royal Rhino,
So,
a wine-based product linked to the Rhino Foundation, the Hoedspruit Endangered Species Centre. Part of the proceeds go to it. Bottles in the shape of a horn.
that's what I was going to get at.
I'm going to go, and I'll stay off top.
I was in Kruger now in January. At the camps, they were doing a big push with us. Every time we walked into the shop, any time of day, from 9 o'clock in the morning, they were there.
Well,
and I think Skakusa has got the top sales for that product.
It's also available at the airports right now. And whilst I've avoided tasting the other stuff that you're drinking, this I'm going to have. Okay? This I'm really going to have. A little thicker than it should be, but it's an incredibly good product, this.
The coffee is great.
It's got Africa Arabica coffee bean, a hint of vanilla in it, in folded cream. Again, put in your coffee. On Saturday we'll be doing a recording of Colombian billiards. I don't think it's a Colombian type game, but they have a billiards table with no holes in it, and it's called three cushion snooker. So the idea is that you don't try to drop the ball in the hole. You hit the ball and you've got to hit 3 cushions and then touch your opponent's ball in the process.
Okay.
And then you get points for every time that you get to your opponent. And just by the way, Steve was kind enough to get the biggest mosquitoes in today that he could find.
I've been battling, guys. I've never battled this hard, not even in Southern Africa.
Yeah, the mosquitoes are quiet and they bite.
And they go through jeans, they go through thick canvas pants, leather aprons, you name it.
On the subject further, as we approach the end, just to let you know, we are preparing gift baskets with the wine in it, and Steve will be putting a selection of knives available, and you'll be able to choose a knife to put in the gift basket. You'll obviously be able to choose the wine that goes in the gift basket, and Steve is offering a voucher for schooling, and he'll give a little more details on how it works, but together with that will be a gift basket. It will be on the website starting tomorrow morning, and from my side, support local.
John, God, man, we bumped each other, what, like 6 years ago, I think.
And we stay together.
Hey, the one thing I can say about the South African community, being here in West Palm Beach, we're very tight-knit. We get to know each other, we get to deal with each other, and that makes this place home. Especially for me, that makes this very much home. So basically what I'm doing with the premises and my forge is I'm giving an experience, the Forged in Fire experience. So I'm one of the Forged in Fire smiths. I contended on the season 7 episode 25 of season 7, sorry.
Did you win?
No, I didn't. I was out first round.
That's terrible.
I was out first round, but again, the show itself is not about knife making. It's about overcoming challenges. And the challenge set before me was immense, I agree. It was something really fun, really enjoyable. And I didn't do it to get to the final end of the show. I did it for a very different reason. I'm a new kid on the block here. I did it so people could know who Steve Katz was, what Kilimanjaro Creations represents, and what my work really goes out to them to be. When somebody buys something from me, they're not just buying a knife or a spear or a blade or a piece of artwork. I like to think that they're buying a piece of home, a piece of where I come from. And that's the going message in the business all the time. So the training experience runs around about 4 to 6 hours in the day. So we do every day of the week, including weekends. So you come in here, groups of up to 2 to 4 people at a time, and we teach you the skill of forging a knife. So we show you the basic skills needed to swing a hammer, show you what happens with the metallurgy, why we harden blades in oil, and how we make a functional, usable tool that is a tool first and not a weapon.
And you get to keep the knife at the end of the day.
Yeah, you walk out with your knife and handle in one day. So it's a real, it's for the guy that doesn't want to sit on the couch on a Sunday afternoon. He wants to come and be a little bit more active. And it gives you an experience into something that most people will never have the chance to see happening.
Big thing now is axe throwing, and you have assisted there.
Yeah, so the game of axes up here in Lake Worth, and the original concept that took place up in Tennessee, which was Target Axes. That was the first company. I made the initial product that they were throwing. very similar to that, just not so much artwork on the
And the thing with the experience that Steve is selling is you can send for Father's Day, give it to the father, send him around here, get him out of your hair for the day. No drinking will take place. This is an exception to the
That's
rule.
until after everything. Once the blade is finished, sharpened, and we have switched off all the machines, we generally do sit around a little fire outside, have a little discussion just to get it, unwind and let out the experience. I want to find out from people what they thought of their time here, what they experienced while they were hammering at the anvil. It's a very personal thing. You're coming to make something with your hands. It's not like making a cake or following a recipe. There's so many variables that can go wrong in this process, and it's how you overcome them, and it's what you see in people, how they do that brings out the best in them.
Obviously, everything's done under the COVID guidelines.
Yes, so COVID-wise, we set up the anvils in a place where I have one anvil and I show you, and I make along with you as we go along. They're 6 feet apart. You've seen in the footage, I have a beautiful outside area, so we can also go out there depending on what the weather's like. But bear in mind, this temperature that we're dealing with and the stuff that's going on around us is reaching temperatures of way over 90 degrees just in the forge area themselves. And as far as the CDC and the Florida Florida Health Department has told me, they do not see a worry of COVID transmission in my forge area because of the heat arrangement. So that was one bonus.
The other thing we were talking about, and this is not an offer that he's doing, he's got enough machinery here to run against the shop. He can put pressure and torture in all different ways. You're not offering.
For the right price.
No, be careful. Someone out there's going to think you're going to be doing it.
Well, again, we're looking for something different in West Palm Beach. There's only so many times you can go to the beach. There's only so many times you can go fishing. There's only so many times you can go sit at a bar. So we're looking for something that brings family orientation mentality. We love doing groups of fathers and sons or fathers and daughters. To really do something that's really out the box and get people's mindsets to change.
And depending on the knife and the handle and whatever you make, you get to keep it, put it on your wall, it's a conversation piece.
Or you can use it while you go fishing. I mean, fishing is the biggest pastime we have down here in South Florida. And a lot of the guys come asking for knives that they can use when they go bass fishing or duck hunting, things like that.
Steve does have a product that can be used for biltong or beef jerky.
Don't have it
right now, but you do have a product.
We have a specific blade in South Africa that was made around about the early 1970s by a maker by the name of Andre Thornburg. When we eat a stick of biltong, we cut towards ourselves, which culinary we taught to always cut away from yourself.
I've got runes to prove that it doesn't work, but I do cut towards myself.
And this knife was designed in such a way where it only had a blade in the middle section of the knife, and it had a rounded bowl of flattened steel on the edge to hook your finger. And it was designed to, while you were on your horseback, to slice your biltong and
beef
put it
jerky
straight into your mouth as you're cutting. So we will be doing that style of knife, just because of the South African heritage for a lot of the products we've done.
And if the demand's there and we can twist his arm, I keep on seeing on social media, where can I buy a biltong cutter? That's one question. Any chance of them making us a proper biltong cutter?
For the guy in Atlanta, I did a 9 for him. But they really are not something like way too out of the box of engineering. It's a very simple engineering.
I think that's basically a wrap.
But we will talk further on those biltong cutters, that's for sure.
So, just to recap, from Steve's for Father's Day, you can buy your father a gift and he can come and play with the tools here. You've seen on the video the various tools. You'll be aiming like the monkeys in the trees. And that will be available. We'll give you the details as to where you can go and buy that gift. our products as well, from which stores are available. You can go onto southafricanbeer.com. It'll guide you to which stores it's available and which sites you can buy it on online stores.
And do yourself a favor, guys. Pick up a bottle of this stuff, the Royal Rhino. Just for one simple reason. Every purchase is going to go to help saving the rhino species in the sub-Saharan continent. I can speak from experience. I was involved in this struggle for almost 9 years of my life before immigrating. And everything that we can do to help the guys on the ground, that's what we need to do. So one of these bottles definitely needs to be in your purchase list, guys.
Thank you. And guys, thank you for spending your valuable time with us. And our discussions coming up, just to give you a preview, we will be having a chat with Garth Duff Gray about rugby. He's passionate about rugby in West Boat. He's been here like 20 years plus, and he has his own little team, and they play against Miami.
Boca.
In Boca.
I've played with the guys at FAU in Fort Lauderdale.
They've got a whole league going and stuff, big institution. So often again, you go onto social media, South African pages, where can my kid go play rugby? And that's their whole idea, is to start a discussion and see where can you play rugby. We've met a guy, we will not mention his name, but he's super passionate about the club. He's down in Miami. He's even tattooed their logo and their crest and everything on his arm, and that's real dedication to rugby. And then, you know, when we do the sevens every year, there's a whole following where people get together and go after the games. Sadly not. We were going to do the one, and then COVID crept in, and the whole life has just changed now. So, correct. So, guys, thank you for joining us. Steve,
guys,
thank you for your time.
Look me up, Kilimanjaro Creations, Facebook and Instagram. As I said to you guys, I'm a storyteller. I just use a very different medium to tell that story. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you. Good night.
You know that's always the rule though. Okay, I'm gonna move a little bit more.
My man says to me, "Hey, why don't you have a big stomach like his friend Ruan's dad? Because I don't drink that much beer."
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I'm good. I'll go
It's
with
going to be taste. I've
Yeah,
got Coke here in the background
I'll
to
go
do
with
diluted.
the brandy and
Both brandies.
both brandies, the
The
whiskey,
whiskey.
and then I'll do the
Rhino.
the marula, and I'll do the dark rum.
Okay, so we're going to do the dark rum. Extract the dark rum to make ourselves, save ourselves a bit of time.